If you want to create your own greeting cards, but you do not want to spend money on special software or be restricted by the constraints found in most custom greeting card software, you're in luck. It turns out that with just a little effort, you can use LibreOffice Writer to create custom greeting cards, and as you know, the software is free. The instructions in this project are for creating a 4-page greeting card by folding an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper in half twice. Most office supply stores in the U.S. carry envelopes that are designed to fit this size card. Look for envelopes that are 4 3/8 by 5 3/4 inches. Of course, if you're outside the U.S., you'll have to adjust the measurements as required. The first step is to determine the relative orientation of the 4 pages of your greeting card. In this example, we use a portrait layout card. You could also fold the paper to create a landscape-oriented card. In this project, you should take a piece of paper and fold it twice. Fold it in half along the horizontal line, and then fold it in half along the vertical line. And then, with the card folded up, write on each of the 4 pages, front, back, inside left, and inside right. When you unfold the page, you'll find out what orientation you need for the 4 different pages of the card, and you'll see that the inside left and inside right pages have to be rotated 180 degrees. Here's an example of a greeting card that was created by following the instructions in this project. You'll notice that the front and back panels are right side up, but the inside panels have been rotated 180 degrees. You may have trouble positioning these different parts of the card so that after the page is folded, they'll be in the right place. You can spend a lot of time and printer paper by doing this with a trial and error technique. So, I'm going to suggest a trick that will enable you to align these things a lot easier. And the trick is to create rectangles that represent each of the 4 pages, and then within those rectangles it'll be easier to align the different parts of the card, and then we can delete those rectangles when it's time to print the card. Well, let's get started and create a new card here. I've created a new LibreOffice Writer document. Right now its title is untitled, so I'm going to change that by using File Save As. And if you check the title bar, you can see I've named my new file My Greeting Card -1. I've done this because sometimes I like to create a whole series of these things, and that enables me to use -1, -2, etc. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a custom page style for our greeting card. And to do that, we'll go to the sidebar and we'll select the styles, and within the styles we'll select page styles, and in the custom styles area I'll right click, select new, and in the page style dialog box I'll give it a name. And I'll use the same name for the next style, even though I'm only going to be using 1 page in this document. But the important thing here is I want to go to the Page tab, and I want to set the margins. And to make the mathematic calculations easier, I'm going to set all the margins to 1/2 inch, or 0.5. And then I'll say OK. And then I'll double click on the greeting card page style to activate or to set that style as the page that I'm working on. Since I'm going to be using some graphic shapes in this card, I went ahead and I selected View, Toolbars, Drawing. And on the bottom of the display here, you can see the Drawing toolbar. I'm going to use the drawing toolbar to create a rectangle for the first panel of my card. And I'll just drag out a rectangle, not paying any particular attention to the size yet. but I've done some calculations to determine what the proper size for this would be. Let me right click on my rectangle, select Position and Size, and in the Position and Size tab, I'm going to enter a width of 3.25 and a height of 4.5. I'm going to anchor this to the page, and then the position of this rectangle from the left is going to be 0.5 inches, and from the top it'll be 0.5 inches. Then I'll select OK. And that positions my first guide. You'll see that it's tucked right into the corner of my half-inch margin page. Now, because I may be printing out some practice versions of this card, and I want to minimize the use of toner or ink, I'm going to go and adjust the transparency of this rectangle. To do that, in the sidebar, I'll select the Properties sidebar, and you see the color of this by default came out blue. I'm going to use the transparency drag tool to change the transparency to about 90%. And that will save printing supplies if I decide to print practice versions of this. Now I need 3 more of these rectangles, so let me use Copy and Paste. I'll right click on my rectangle, select Copy. I'll right click and select Paste, and although it's hard to see, it pasted the copy right on top of the original. I can drag that over and you can see that's the case. So now let me position the second rectangle by right clicking, selecting Position and Size, and from the left I'm going to position this 4.75. This is a result of the calculations that I did behind the scenes. And I'll say OK. And now I need to repeat this and get 2 more rectangles. Let me right click, say Copy, right click, say Paste, right click and select Position and Size. This time I'm going to keep this new rectangle a ½ inch from the left, but from the top I'm going to put it 6 inches down from the top. And similarly, I'll copy this other one, copy, paste, right click, Position and Size, and I'll move this one down 6 inches from the top. It's not necessary to do this next step, but I like to have these to be different colors just for my own amusement. So I think I'll change the color of this one to perhaps yellow. Down here, maybe I'll choose kind of this red color. And this one I'm going to make green. And you see they're not very bright because it preserved the transparency level for each of these rectangles. Now I think I'm going to save this version of my document. I don't want to have to do this again in case power goes out or whatever happens. Next I'm going to add some text which will appear on the front page of the card, which is in the lower right here. So let me select a text box, drag out a text box, and type in some text. And I'm going to click away just to demonstrate the use of text boxes. If I go over here to the left side of the drawing toolbar, you'll notice that I have a select tool. And with that in play, I can click on the text box, and when I do, the text box will be selected. When the text box is selected, I have these grabbers at the corners and the midpoints that I can use to resize it, and also with a double arrow I can drag the box to a new location. With the text box selected, if I double click in the text box, you see that the cursor changes to the standard text cursor, and I can use all the standard text manipulation tricks. I'll use Control A to select all the text in that line. And then in the properties sidebar, I'm going to go ahead and center align that text. I think I'll make it bold. I can increase the size. And if I want, I could change the font. Let me select that text box again. And now I'm going to reduce the height of this text box, and I think I'll drag it into position here. And using this rectangle as a guide, it will be easier to position the text box somewhere where after I print and fold the card, it will look right. Let me add some more text. This time I'm going to add text in this panel, but if you have your sample that you folded up, you can see that the text in this part of the card has to be rotated 180 degrees. Let me insert some text in a text box in that panel. And once I've entered the text in that box, I can again edit the text, and I can align it centered. I can adjust the font, and if I like, I can adjust the font style. And I think I'll use the Comic Sans style. And once again, I'm going to adjust the size of this box and the location. Now comes the rotation trick. I'm going to right click on the boundary of the box and select position and size. And in the position and size dialog box, I have a rotation tab, and I can change the rotation angle to 180. And there it is. Now, if you need to go back and edit text that's been rotated, when you double click on it, you'll see that it flips back to the original orientation to make editing easier, but when you click away, the rotation of that box will return. Now on the back panel of the card, I think I'll add a little graphic. Let me use the drawing toolbar for that. I'm going to choose this little happy smiley face, and I'll drag out my smiley face, and I can move it around. Notice that when I have a graphic object selected, I get the graphics toolbar here, and it makes it easy to go in and do things like change the color. If I want to change the color of the line, I can do that. And if I want to change the thickness of the line, I can do that. The next thing I want to do is I want to insert a graphic into the front of the card. So I will choose, you notice I went and I clicked away so that nothing was selected. Now I'm going to choose Insert Image and go find an image that I'm interested in. And I think I'll choose this Computer Blast image. When I do, it comes in a default size and location, but I can use the grabbers here to resize the image, and I can drag the image to the position I like. Maybe make it a little smaller. And you notice how that rectangle guide that we created helps make it easier to position that image in a good location. Let's go ahead and add an image in this inner panel of the card so that we can see how to rotate that image. So, insert image, find an image that I like, resize it, drag it into position, maybe a little smaller than that. And now I'm going to right click on that, select Properties, and in the Properties, there are all these Image Properties tabs. I select the Image tab, and here I can change the rotation angle to 180. OK, and I've done it. So now I've created a greeting card. Let me save this version. And I can do some test printing to see if everything's the way I like it. When I have this all ready to go, I'll simply go in and select a rectangle, delete it, select this rectangle, delete it, and clean up all those rectangular guide places. And there's my finished card.